We began with Doug Bronson of Gulf Breeze. He emerged the winner in a four-way Republican primary. He is a political newcomer and longtime resident with a background in the real estate and insurance fields. And we also have Mr. Matthias Bendito of Milton. He's an independent candidate in this race. This is his first step into the political arena. He is a small business owner. We thank you both for joining us. We'll begin with this question. There have been recent legislative attempts to remove or modify the current ban of drilling in Florida waters. That is 3 miles into the Atlantic and 10 miles into the Gulf. What are your views on removing or modifying this ban?
Well, the reality is that we've had drilling in the Gulf. The problem is that we have received no revenue. In fact, when the oil spill, the fines are levied against BP. Because we're not an oil-producing state, we will give a disproportionate share of the revenue that's coming from those fines. We need to be extremely careful, and West Florida, Northwest Florida is going to get a pass in drilling for a long time, because we were promised that that could not happen. There was fail-safe remedies for any catastrophe. They did not work. They must prove that they can work before we consider any drilling.
Thank you, Mr. Fox.
I believe that we should lift the ban right away. There's a lot of people who are accepting money for unemployment right now, and we really need the money ourselves. If we lift the ban, get those people back to work, we can get the energy that we need. There won't be a loss in energy production, but really we need to explore alternative energy. If we live in Florida, to where we can actually grow agriculture, get enough oil for the dependency of our own state. We can become energy independent with the climate here in Florida.
All right, this next question goes out to you first, Mr. Bendito, and we ask, what plans, if any, do you have in modernizing Florida's tax system, which hasn't been modernized in over 60 years?
The Florida tax system. Well, the question that you asked the congressional candidates earlier, we need to eliminate the income tax right away. Everything needs to be on consumption based. The federal income tax doesn't go towards anything that we think it goes to. It doesn't go towards roads, bridges. It doesn't go towards defense. It literally goes into the pockets of the private owners of the Federal Reserve Bank. They own this country. They are the ones who are destroying our country and putting it down on the ground. So, a roundabout question, the best way to fix our tax problem is to get rid of the income tax and abolish the Federal Reserve.
Most of the income from the state comes from sales tax. The counties is property taxes. The real major burden is for the homeowner, and we must do something to alleviate the burden that they're experiencing. I believe in the consumption tax. If you can afford to spend it, you can afford to pay more taxes for it. That does not mean increased tax. It just means spreading out the tax burden more fairly. And we can do that. There's been several studies to do that, but we need a fair tax that allows the consumers, when they buy something, to pay and not have the burden on the homeowner.
All right, Mr. Bachman, I'm sorry, we have a rebuttal now from Mr. Bendito.
Yes, it's not really a rebuttal. I just wanted to emphasize that on property tax, we just need to abolish that altogether. With property tax, nobody really owns their property, because if you don't pay the tax, the real owners will come and take it from you. Our Constitution guarantees life, liberty, and property. As long as we have to pay a property tax, then it's not really our own property.
You have something to say? Okay. We move on to the next question, beginning with you, Mr. Bachman. We ask, how do you respond to the proposal that marijuana be legal, controlled, and taxed in Florida?
These proposals, I haven't heard of that in Florida. I know they're considering it in California. But I'll tell you that District 1, the one that I will represent, would be against that, and I'm against it. That form of taxation, legalizing any type of drug, is not what we need. It's a long-ended answer to a long question.
Mr. Bendito, same question to you.
I am see, my father has Parkinson's disease, and because marijuana is illegal, he would never use it for medicinal purposes, and he could really use it for many reasons, to get an appetite, to ease the pain. There's a lot of different reasons. Now, I'm not for legalizing marijuana, but there are a lot of people who could really use the medicinal purposes, the reason why God put it on the planet in the first place. I don't think it should be a tax revenue sort of thing, but we really need to look at the medical advances for thinking.
Even though they have completed their sentences, many thousands of individuals convicted of a felony in Florida cannot vote because their civil rights have not been restored. What is your opinion of having Florida join the ranks of states that make restoration of civil rights automatic when felons complete their sentences?
I am on it completely. Especially, nobody can take away guns. Nobody can take away your right to vote. Really, it comes down to life, liberty, and property. If a felon can buy property, that's where rights lie. Why can't they vote? Now, if we're talking about restoring gun rights to a convicted armed burglar, I don't necessarily agree with that. But voting rights is something that nobody should ever have taken away. It takes away part of their soul.
Mr. Broxton, we ask the same question to you. The restoration of civil rights for convicted felons who have served their time.
I think Governor Chris dealt with that. I think we have to be careful that we do a blanket forgiveness. Look at the type of felons. We have a lot of felons that, in many cases, did not have a felony that was so egregious that it should not, after they served their sentence, be looked at to restore some of their rights. So I'd be in favor of categorizing what those offenses are.
We begin this next question with you, Mr. Broxton. Some legislators urge great state control over growth in county and municipal budgets. What are your views on this idea and how it relates to the generally accepted principles of home rule?
The problem we have in Florida is that we're dominated by South Florida. Over the last 20 years, they've had tremendous growth problems. They created a department called Department of Community Affairs. It has become a dictator in development throughout Florida. Many of my colleagues and I will be for demolishing DCA. They're unfair to Northwest Florida. We are not Tampa. We're not Miami. We're not Jacksonville or Orlando. We're the Panhandle. Let us make our decisions that are good for Panhandle folks.
Mr. Bandito, what are your views on this?
Because I'm a little unclear, can you please say it one more time?
Absolutely. Some legislators urge greater control, state control that is, over growth in county and municipal budgets. What are your views on this idea and how it relates to generally accepted principles of home rule?
All right. I'm shooting in the dark a little bit, but state control of, as opposed to federal control, always. State control as opposed to municipal and local, never. It should always be up to the local government, period. Listening to Mr. Broxton's answer, I was reminded of an issue that we all need to be aware of, that South Florida is trying to take our drinking water from us right now through different legislation. And I believe that this might coincide with the question that we need to stand up and put a stop to it right here. Thank you.
Bandito, this question first. What are your views on what should be the future of the Department of Community Affairs, the department that oversees growth matters in this state?
I'm pretty sure I just answered it. I agree with Mr. Broxton, eliminate it. It just sounds like bureaucracy that gives the South total control over the North here in Florida. Let's eliminate it. Anything that has extra bureaucracy that gets us away from common law, from what we the people deserve, that our founders gave us, then we need to abolish it.
It's a law of unintended consequences. They thought they were doing something good, and it turns out they created a bureaucracy that could not be controlled. Either DCA has to be eliminated or restricted in the enforcement they have throughout the state, especially the Panhandle. Again, What works for South Florida does not always work for the Panhandle.
All right, we begin now with Mr. Brockman on this next question. Billions of federal and venture capital dollars are flowing to companies with innovations in renewable energy and energy efficiency. What more, if anything, should the legislature do to attract more of these companies to our state?
Well, we must be energy independent, and Florida wants to do its part. What we must do, though, is not give away money. We must have ways in which companies can invest their own money and get a tax credit. If we do that, the American people and the Florida people will create new forms of energy. I'm certain of that.
Mr. Bendito?
On the energy issue, I'm sort of an insider because I create biodiesel and create fuel for my own house, and actually create my own electricity for my house. What we need to do is get big oil out of the way. We have the technologies, we have the ability to be energy independent as a country, but because big oil has such a stronghold inside our federal government, inside of every aspect that we live in, these technologies aren't coming out. We could grow jatropha here in Florida, Jatropha, Google it. It grows in our climate here, it'll grow perfectly. It's how Brazil is energy independent. We could grow it here on our state highways and easily export diesel to the rest of the country and be a big economic boost here in Florida.
All right, one last question to you. This one goes out to Mr. Bendito first. What changes, if any, would you support in Florida's campaign finance laws to assure transparency and accountability and help the level of playing field?
Well, this question actually pertains to me because I'm one of those little guys. I decided not to accept donations in this campaign because that's where corruption begins. I think that the special interest that puts the most money into a candidate's campaign is going to be looking for the first favor once they're in office. So I'm trying to nip it in the bud and lead by example and show that we don't need money. So I don't know if we should make it a law that there couldn't be used public funds, but public funds could be used for a lot better reasons than to put somebody in office. Their issues, what they care about, and how they present themselves to the public should be what gets them in office, not the money spent in their campaign.
Mr. Watson, want to know how you would help level the playing field?
Well, we do have transparency. Anyone that gives money becomes public record. Many of my friends, hundreds of my friends and relatives, have given me money to run this campaign. They believe in what I'm doing. They know the sacrifice that I've made to run an effective campaign. It's a great system, and the people that abuse it should be punished. But it's a system that allows your word to be stated in public and in the media, and it takes money to do that. It's a good system. We need to be fair about it and to be transparent, which Florida is.
All right, gentlemen, we have 45 seconds for you to have closing comments now, and of course we'll begin with Mr. Matthias Bendito.
Hello, and thank you very much. Really, my message is for America to wake up. The federal government has overstepped its boundaries in so many ways, and the way for us, we the people, in order to take control of our government again, is to do it at the state and local levels. Next 2 years, run. Please, somebody else out there, run. Let's fill our state house, our state senate with statesmen and not politicians. Please study my website at FloridaVotes2010.com. I have a lot of information. When I built it, I poured my heart out on it. I have documentaries page that you can watch movies and see how our monetary system is set up to fail. All sorts of different things. And please, consider me November 2nd. And tell your friends and family who might live in the district. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Doug Broxton.
I'm Doug Broxton. I'm a lifelong resident here in the Panhandle. I'm a businessman, I'm a family man, I'm a church man. Our system requires the people that have enjoyed our great system step up and serve the public. And I want to do that. If you'll elect me, I'll do my very best to serve you. I'll listen to your questions. I'll listen to your input, your problems, and we will solve the problems here in Northwest Florida. I'll represent you.